Welcome to South Croydon. This is Southend in Croydon. And what I'm doing today is picking up from the video that I made, Croydon How It Is 2023. And in this particular video, it's moving from Southend down towards the Swan and Sugarloaf, back round Southbridge Road, and seeing some of the very older parts of Croydon up near the Waldrons, and then kind of working my way back in a bit of a loop. Croydon, its past is very rich from a history perspective, and we're going to see lots of magnificent architecture, sadly a few lost pubs, and various other bits and pieces along the way. So, without further ado, let's go from Coombe Cross and work our way along Southend. So actually on the junction here at Coombe Cross, we've got the site of what was originally the Cooper and Sons steam boot factory. And also on the corner there was a pub, the New Inn, but certainly the pub's long gone and the boot factory's long gone. And the building actually stood empty for quite some time. It was pulled down 20, 30 years ago, maybe a bit more. It was a big employer in the town, possibly the biggest, such that some of the workers had to actually work at home. So this is in the 1800s, people are working from home. The footprint of the flats that we see there now pretty much occupies the whole plots that we had of this marvellous boot factory building. And just on the very corner there, that was the Blacksmith's Arms pub. And panning along to Richard Lawson pianos, but Potter's Music occupied this site. Now, I'm now thinking, well, which part? I think it was possibly this, the mock Tudor front, where in the mid-1970s a young Phil Swallow had some guitar lessons. And the Southend Food Centre here with some very nice architecture above. This theme that we've done before of looking up will continue. So this particular building, this is Boswell House, occupies from 17 to 19 Southend. Beautiful building. And it used to have the base of the Croydon Council Parks Department. They moved out some time ago. A separate sign for Boswell Cottage here, number 19. And you can see out the back there, very, very pretty. So that's the Boswell Cottage site, Southend. Easy to go past these places, but well worth a stop and a look. So on the corner of Parker Road, we've got the King of the South pub and kitchen that was originally the Duke's Head. And then looking back, we get another view on the corner there of what would have been the boot factory. This area is known as the restaurant quarter. They have a food festival here, sort of late June, early July time. Basically the whole street is closed off and food is cooked and music is played and dancing happens, and it's all very jolly. There's a Facebook page that I'll put a link to, should you wish to partake. Why have I stopped in a car park? Well, this is really to show off Kingham's of Croydon. Been here for many, many years. I'm talking 40, 50 plus. They've got sort of these showroom type sites. I'm not sure if this is just the one remaining one now. And they've got another few little smaller sites dotted around. So yeah, been here for a long time, a big part of Croydon car sales at scene. So I'm picking out the former Wetherspoons Skylark pub. Worth noting the building, it's sort of Art Deco style. I don't know if it's genuine Art Deco, it certainly looks in that style, but yeah, this has been closed for I think at least 18 months. Been a few Wetherspoons pubs that have closed in the area, or probably across the country. And it's obviously very sad when that happens, but it was quite a popular spot at one point. And actually looking at the architecture, as you know I like to, the building next to it is very impressive frontage. Not sure of the age. We've got a real hodgepodge here actually, or is it hodgepodge? Anyway, a mixture of buildings along here. And one we're approaching on the other side, is possibly the oldest shop building in Croydon. Currently called Just Flute's Music Shop. Dating back to, yes, around 1700. And if you think of, well, there's the modern parts of Croydon, modern developments. And even in just the context here, you know, there's oldish properties either side of it, and you've just got that amazing one set in the middle there. For a number of years, that building was Trengove Antiques. And yeah, just marvel at that little bit of history in the middle of everything else that's going on. The Gatties over there, had a few meals in there. That's been in situ for, well, probably going back to the 80s at least. And then we see the closure of Zizzy's. So some of these chains pulled out, possibly COVID time, who knows. Quite sad, to be honest, quite sad. Some dating there for the parade, so that's 1929, where Bogatti's is. Currently the tree house, formerly the Blue Anchor. Probably been the tree house for a few years. Up on the chimney there is an anchor. Probably the only reference now that I can see. Answers in the comments if you know otherwise. And then I'll just provide a bit more context again, looking back where we've just been, the first sort of section of South Croydon, and what is generally known as the restaurant quarter. As usual, calling out some of the architecture above the shops. And we've got the store straight ahead of us. A little while back that was a Sainsbury's, but in the inside of that premises, they've got some of the old tiling that relates back to when it was first opened as a shop. So we're talking decades ago. So well worth having a look at that if you get the chance. And then on the corner, we'll have another view. This is where Whitgift Galleries once was. Another place that was in situ for a long, long time. And just opposite on what was Midland and then HSBC is Blount's House, 1887. And for me personally, I used to get the 403 bus from home into Croydon, and it always used to swing round into Aberdeen Road here. And that's almost how the memory of Whitgift Galleries was indelibly etched on my brain, because you just got used to the visual of it being there over a couple of floors, maybe even 3 floors. So they've been gone for a little while now. But yeah, that was the site of Whitgift Galleries, just on the corner there of Aberdeen Road. So the Southend sign has been there for a little while now. It's not an old thing. The lettering's still fairly new. Stands out quite well though, the sort of 3D style lettering there on those very nice buildings. Another focal point as you come through the town. Tinged with sadness that the bank that I used to work at is closed. So panning round, we've got the spire in the background from St Peter's Church, and then the famous site of the Swan and Sugarloaf Hotel. Now, I read recently that the naming of that is quite interesting. It's actually the third pub called the Swan and Sugarloaf. First one was further up Selsdon Road, which is the road that you just see on the left there. And I think there've been 2 on this site. But the name possibly came about because there was originally a connection in the naming of the pub to the Archbishops of Canterbury relating to the location of the first pub. Now, I think I'm right in this, but I'll carry on anyway. There's a very old picture of the bishop's mitre and the crook. And over time it faded. So when they set up a newer version of the pub, they said, well, look, we've got, well, that's a swan's neck. And then, oh, look, that's a sugar loaf, because sugar was sold in the shape of a bishop's mitre style loaf. So it probably should have had an archbishop reference, and it became the Swan and Sugar Loaf because it looked a bit like it. Tram conductors used to refer to it as the bread and duck. So obviously, yes, it's the Swan and Sugar Loaf. That's a lot to say. Bread and duck is much easier. So yeah, the tram conductors that used to, well, the tram route terminated there. So just context-wise, we've got Aberdeen Road and the old Whitgift Galleries there. Tree House, ex-Blue Anchor. And I can just about see an anchor on the side of this chimney. And this block of flats was once upon a time Graham's, where I know I got a kitchen built from them once, but it was a bit of everything from DIY and furnishings and furniture maybe. Certainly home stuff. So that was the Blue Anchor, now the Tree House. Still going though, that's the important thing. And what looks like an old electricity substation. Funny how I just don't remember that existing. Obviously it did. There's some really nice ironwork on the downpipe there. Functional building, but in a very nice style. Call out the old blacksmith sign up there. That sadly is no more. This particular building. Obviously, blacksmiths don't have the demand that they would have done once upon a time. So this is Howard Primary School, a new one to me. I wasn't aware of this, but my background assistant Graham pointed it out, so we've had a little wander. Croydon School Board, Dering Place Schools, erected AD 1897. So often these school buildings are just marvellous from an architecture perspective. You normally see some symmetry and just a great solid design. So yeah, that's Howard School. Unexpected bonus there really, seeing the school. As I say, I wasn't aware it existed, Graham pointed it out to me. And yeah, really nice. Very quiet. We've just come back a bit from Southbridge Road. That was obviously a little bit quieter than the main South End. But this is another level still. It's very residential here. This was once the Wheelwright Arms pub. Somewhere that I frequented fairly regularly when I worked nearby. It was one of our team watering holes, if you like. And I was sort of working out in context where or what's been changed, because this is essentially exactly the same building, but there's a kind of, I don't know what you call it, an edging that you can see both at the top of the building and at the middle of the building, so between the floors. And that's kind of cut because that's where the pub frontage would have been, I think. That was the Wheelwrights Arms and now residential property. From a nostalgia perspective, all we have is memories left. Remember the teams and folks we worked with and the fun we had. Finding I'm crossing over regularly to get the best view back on what I'm trying to focus on. So the next location is another former pub. Very popular darts pub. If you know, you know. Number 101, where it says hand car wash, that was the Star. Don't know that I ever went in there. I think Sue, my wife, went in there once. Or twice. I lose track of just how long some of these places have been closed now, but I always remember it just for that lovely kind of home style building. It's almost like you were going literally into someone's house, public house. So yeah, number 101, Southbridge Road, formerly the Star, now no longer. Brant, number 94, that was an off licence once. Nice decorative building. There's like a sign on the top there, a pole from where the sign would be hanging. And next door, a new building now, but formerly that was called Monnery, Monnery. And I remember the very big lettering on there as you went by. You just saw Monnery. Now it says Sterling Rose Homes 2020. And we'll have a closer look. But the building next to it, I know is listed, so that's got some historical value too. I'm just highlighting this first property, this ahead of us now, lovely basement, 2 floors and roof accommodation. And that's on the listing site. And I mean, that's character in itself, but also the next one on the corner here, on the corner of Bramley Hill, so junction of Southbridge Road and Bramley Hill, really does stand out whenever you're coming along Southbridge Road. It always takes my eye. Now, we think an actor lived there at one stage. We can't be sure, and we can't find a name. So, if you know, answers in the comments. Thank you very much indeed. Now, some of these properties in Tanfield Road have got these rather nice features of faces above the doors. Nice sign there for E. Reeve, house agent and decorator of West Street, which is just a little way away. Not to be confused with Reeves Furnishings. But how wonderful that that sign has stood the test of time. It's just on the junction of Tanfield Road and Southbridge Road here. So St Andrew's Church from, I believe, the mid-1800s. I've not been inside it. But it's just on the corner here. The very busy little mini roundabout here. I've just come up. So this is Southbridge Road going towards the flyover ahead. And again, it's just one of those that if you're coming along here, heading towards South Croydon, then you will have always seen this, always done that visual on the St Andrew's Church building here. This is the busy roundabout by Croydon flyover. So straight ahead, slightly to the left, is Croydon Fire Station. And as I pan round, in the distance, straight ahead but obscured by trees, is the Minster. And really this whole area ahead of me now was Old Town. It pretty much trashed when this flyover was built, to be honest. I don't remember any of it before that. I think I'm probably still a little bit too young. And then you can see the really developed part of Croydon straight ahead. So we're going to go from this very busy location up towards the Waldrons, which is somewhere I don't recall actually visiting, but I've been meaning to. There's some very, very nice architecture up there apparently, so we'll check that out. So Pavilion Apartments was the Cricketers pub until at least 10 years ago. That's Southbridge Place that we're in now. And I've read there's something around 6 different cricketers pubs, or pubs with cricketers in the name, in the area. So obviously Croydon was a big borough for the game of cricket, but a nice solid symmetrical building was a pub and now apartments. We've got a new school here, Krishna Avanti Primary School. And some extremely substantial gate posts here as we enter the Waldrons. I read that there would be someone here managing the gates to keep out undesirables. They're marvellous. Detail there. No doubt that's where the latch went down for the gate. And we've got there the lodge house. So that's where the person would have had the power to control the comings and goings of people from the south part of the borough to enter the Waldrons development. So this was the site of the old Sea Scouts house on the corner. After use, it lay derelict for a while, and all sorts of comings and goings and happenings, and then built in fairly recent times to this apartment block here, just on the corner and overlooking another part of the flyover straight ahead, and the new school on the corner. So we are now in the Waldrons area, and the size and style of these buildings is quite something. Amazing. And I don't quite know why I've never managed to get here. Never had a reason to be in the area until I started getting interested in local history and documenting it. I think a number of them are possibly apartments, but quite something. Mid-19th century, I think. And whilst not all of the buildings may be identical, there are certain architectural themes that are repeated, perhaps from the style of the day. Stunning. Maple Court 11, the Waldrons. So we've got a crescent area here. Just highlight this unusual fence design here, designed to resemble ferns, or is it fronds of ferns? Looks a lot better than the spikes that you sometimes see. Some apartment blocks on the other side. Let's just have a little wander around the crescent. Oh, this is something else I picked out from a book that I read, a 1973 book. There's no cipher on the postbox. It would normally have a monarch's reference on there, and there isn't. I don't know why. Who knows what happens? Answers in the comments. But this really does feel to me that we're not in Croydon. It feels that I'm in a Richmond or a Putney or an Islington or a West London suburb somewhere. Always tempted to knock on the door and say, "Can I have a look round?" I wouldn't do such a thing. If somebody invited me in, obviously, yes. Weather vane on the top of that corner one where the scaffolding is. Incredible. And we're high up here. This is I suppose this is where the gentry lived originally, the professional people and the like. I'm tempted to make a comment about looking down on the others, but maybe it almost was that and done like that for a reason. As a seagull goes by. Someone gets their Sainsbury's delivery. Lots of seagull activity. What an amazing crescent. I just looking back down the hill, so a mixture really from the apartment blocks on the left, a very new apartment block straight ahead, but then we've got the beautiful crescent of the Waldrons all the way around here. And just on the corner here there's a plaque for Cicely Mary Barker, 1895 to 1973. So this is Waldronhurst, where the Waldronhurst Hotel once stood. Very impressive building, and it actually cut across the road that we see now. So this is almost, the road was built through the middle of what the building would have been. It still existed until the 50s. So it's probably about that time, 50s, 60s, that this was built to give us what we have today. It's a parade of shops here, Southbridge Road. Obviously have seen many different businesses over the years. Now, why is it called Southbridge Road? I hear you ask, possibly. As I possibly get run over. No, I'm safe. Well, the Bourne River used to flow around here, and you needed bridges to cross the river, and one of the bridges would have been called South Bridge. We think. It would make sense, wouldn't it? So, yes, Southbridge Road, a bridge over the Bourne. The last cricketers named pub, the Surrey Cricketers, used to be a place we'd visit when I worked in the area. Pleased to see it's still going. Lovely tile finish. And just behind we've got another reference to Kingham's, which we saw earlier in Spicer's Yard. So I mentioned that they had a few different sort of lots or parking areas set up. And we're heading up towards Coombe Cross for the end of the walk and talk. So this was Southend Walk and Talk, not Southend Essex, Southend Croydon, incorporating the restaurant quarter. A couple of little stories about some of the older pubs, some references to pubs no longer with us. A really enjoyable visit to the Waldrons, where it's a conservation area, and I'd read about it from that perspective when doing historical research, but had never actually visited there. So that was a very enjoyable first for me. So I hope you enjoyed coming along. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.